Good evening, Karina Carvalho with ABC News. The federal government hands down its second budget tomorrow night, but another key funding commitment was unveiled today. The federal police will receive a $320 million boost. For the opposition, a Labor advertisement rolled out in Queensland has caused its leader a major headache. Here's political editor Chris Uhlmann.
Some might view what follows as a neat visualisation of the 2014 budget and its aftermath. That economic blueprint helped bring down a Prime Minister. Today's display was to showcase Budget 2017 and its commitment to national security through a $321 million funding boost to the Australian Federal Police, which buys 300 new specialists.
This is keeping Australians safe.
It's all part of the theatre around a budget that will build on the government's strengths and try to bury some of the ghosts of 2014.
We've got to guarantee those essential services that all Australians rely on. We need to put downward pressure on the costs of living.
The budget story so far includes the school and university funding plans, the likelihood of a thaw in the Medicare rebate freeze, a promised housing affordability plan, guaranteed one-off energy payments for pensioners, and more money for veterans' health. And the coalition's embracing big government by rebranding some debt as investment and spending billions on roads, rail and Sydney's second airport. It will all be delivered under 3 headlines.
Scott, tell us about the security, the fairness, the opportunity that the budget will deliver.
What's your name? James. Nice to meet you, James.
But Catholic schools say their share of education funding is unfair, and the opposition argues the coalition should honour all the Gillard-era pledges.
The education cuts are the first big failure of the Turnbull government's budget.
But for the first time in a long time, Bill Shorten has hit some rough weather over this ad pumping Labor's nationalist credentials.
There are many jobs that should go to Australians first.
It has drawn internal fire.
I think the ad's a shocker.
And the problem isn't the Trump-era message.
We'll build Australian first, buy Australian first, and employ Australians first.
But the almost lily-white lineup of extras.
I think anyone who sees it will know exactly what's wrong with it.
The opposition leader has had second thoughts.
I've had a look at the final production. I think we should have had more diversity in it, and I'll be speaking to the Labor Party about that.
It's a reminder that leadership tensions aren't limited to the coalition.
It should never have been produced, and it should never be shown.
But for the next few days, the spotlight will be firmly on the government.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, PM.
Thank you. Hard work ahead.
Absolutely. We can get on with it.
We will.
Cheers.
We'll find out how it all adds up soon. Chris Uhlmann, ABC News, Canberra.
Greg Jennett is live at Parliament House for us tonight. Greg, the government has already foreshadowed a lot of the big ticket items in the budget. What's left to announce?
Well, the gaping hole in pre-budget announcements, Karina, is obviously health. And if this government's serious about countering those effective Labor Party attacks from last year's election campaign, there'll have to be some meaningful move on unfreezing those Medicare rebates paid to doctors. Perhaps not all doctors, but in all likelihood starting in the first instance with GPs. Then there's the matter of banks. We're likely to see a more meaningful package on rogue banks, more meaningful, not necessarily expensive, but more meaningful than the requirement that they send their chief executive officers to parliamentary inquiries twice a year. And finally, there's that matter of housing affordability. Just how far will the government be able to go? There's certainly expectations around extra savings incentives for first home buyers and still quite possibly crimping what it used to call excesses in negative gearing while not actually abolishing it.
Greg, is anyone expected to miss out tomorrow night?
Well, obviously, when the government moves into these expensive portfolio areas of education, as it did last week, and health, as we're predicting that it will tomorrow, it has to be paid for. And there are some expectations that there will be some extra requirements, perhaps through a Medicare surcharge levy at the upper income levels. We will have to wait and see. But all of this, Karina, is set against the overarching purpose of the Treasurer to try to show a return to surplus in the fourth of the budget years. That's 2020, 2021. But of course, forecasting it is one thing, delivering it is another. That's what requires good negotiations with the Senate, fair wins from the global economy, and the small matter of winning another election between now and then.
Greg Jennett live there in Canberra. There'll be full coverage of the federal budget starting at 7:30 tomorrow night with the Treasurer's speech live from Parliament House. It will be followed by an ABC News special at 8 o'clock hosted by Lee Sales and Chris Uhlmann and includes the first interviews with Scott Morrison and Shadow Treasurer Chris Bowen.